Okay, welcome back to Scott Webb here with C2C Sports Investment Group. We're going to talk about the AFC playoff game on Saturday. This is the late game. This will be the Tennessee Titans at the New England Patriots. This game opened at New England minus 13.5 and 47. He actually bet up to 14. It's back down to 13.5 and 48 as a total. The money shows 75% of the money's on New England. 82% of the money is on the over. 74% of the money's on the 74% of the tickets are on New England, and 58% of the tickets are on the over. The weather in this game is supposed to be a little windy. It's in the neighborhood of 11-mile-an-hour winds, 12-mile-an-hour winds, and it's going to be cold. This is going to be in the 20-degree range, and the real feel will be in the teens. That's a huge advantage to the Patriots in this game, only because Tom Brady and his experience of being able to handle that weather and be able to handle the wind. Marcus Mariota is from Hawaii, played his games in Oregon, and even though they played in Kansas City in a cold stadium last week, I think they're going to run into a little bit of a different situation here in New England. So looking at some of the other issues here in just Brady and Mariota, Brady this year, even though it wasn't his best year, he threw 32 touchdown passes, only 8 interceptions, averaged 7.9 yards per pass attempt. And Mariota threw 14 touchdowns with 17 interceptions. That's correct. He threw more interceptions than he did touchdowns. And he had a 6.8 yards per attempt, which means he's not throwing the ball down the field very much. So he's a dink and dunk kind of quarterback, trying to keep things alive, scramble with his feet, trying to make plays. Probably a poor man's Russell Wilson is kind of the way it looks like. So this is going to be one of the big differences here because we'll explain some of the things with New England's defense in a second. But scoring touchdowns. New England's offense has scored 32. Tennessee's offense has scored 32 touchdowns. The defense has allowed 32 touchdowns, and that's against the 31st ranked schedule that they face. So this team they're playing this week is the cream of the crop in the NFL. So this is going to be a big difference for them trying to contain New England. New England scored 48 touchdowns, so they scored 16 more touchdowns. That's one per game more than what Tennessee did. And they allowed 30, and that's even with such a terrible start to the year where they were the worst defense in the league by far. Not that they've moved dramatically to the point where they're the best defense in the league, but they've gone from 32 to 22, and they have held except for 2 of the last 10 games, they've held their opponents to under 14 points. So when it comes to the defense, they're playing much better. The numbers won't show that statistically, but you do keep that in the back of your head as we go through this to try to figure out where they are. Red zone scoring, here's another big difference. Tennessee on offense is ranked 19th. On defense, they're ranked 12th. New England is ranked 6th on offense and 4th on defense. So in a nutshell, New England finishes their drives that they go in for scores, and they stop their opponents from scoring touchdowns. So if they're scoring touchdowns, then their opponents aren't, and or their opponents are trying to kick field goals, that's where you're going to get some point differential in this game. One of the other things that we need to talk about too is there was a big article that ESPN did, and it was in relation to turmoil and chaos in New England. Brady and Belichick and Kraft not getting along. I don't buy into any of that stuff for this game. It may very well have even happened, but the truth is that that's a distraction, and this team has shown, and the coach has shown that that's not how they do things in New England. The other thing I would really even say is it might even be something they rally around. Belichick might be in the locker room doing things to the degree of, hey guys, everybody thinks we're all in turmoil. Nobody likes each other. It's us against the world. He gets everybody fired up, and they come out with a chip on their shoulder. But I think there's a big edge here because Not because of that, but more because they had a week off. Tom Brady over the last few games didn't look like the Tom Brady of old, and maybe he looked like the Tom Brady that's a 40-year-old quarterback hitting that 40-year-old wall. But I don't expect that to be the case in this game. I expect him to be fresh. I expect him to be good. I don't expect him to be arm sore or arm tired. I expect him to be up to snuff and play very well in this game. So how does Tennessee even stay within the number? How do they stay in the game? They got to stay within 2 touchdowns. So how do they do that? Well, there's only one way. They have to rush the football. There's no question they have to run the football. In the New England losses, the common theme has been that teams have been able to run the ball, which isn't so much that they move the ball down the field, it's as much that they eat up the clock. If they're able to get first downs, if they're able to get 4 yards on first down, and then they get 3 yards or 4 yards on second down, so they got third and shorts, and they're getting a lot of these easier third down conversions. New England gives up 39% on third down. So it's one of these where that keeps the offense off the field. The offense is what is dangerous for New England in this game against the Titans. So the big difference going to be is, can New England get on the field enough to score enough points, and can Tennessee stay on the field to keep New England off the field? And that's going to be how we look at this. So the New England common theme here is the rushing, eating the clock. Against Carolina, Kansas City, and Miami, those were all losses. Those teams all moved the ball on the ground. Those teams all had big time of possession edges. Even in some of the close wins against San Diego and Tampa Bay, New England had a disadvantage when it came to the time of possession. One of the best things that can happen for Tennessee when we talk about running the ball is you have Derrick Henry in and you have Murray out. And that's a big advantage for Tennessee, because that gives Malarkey the only option of being able to run Henry, because he was favoring Murray all year, and Murray is slower to the hole, and he's much easier to tackle than Henry is. Henry he got 150 carries, and in those 150 carries, he had 10 big gains, 10 big plus yard breakouts, and that ranks very high amongst the running backs. So as you go down through here, you look at it, New England's defensive line, they rank 30th in run stuffs. So that means they don't stop the ball on first down or many downs where they stop 0 gains or up to 2 yards or even lost yards. So if they rank 30th, that's very poor. So that means that Tennessee does have the ability to run with Henry. Because when you start to look at if they're going to throw the ball, Tennessee has ordinary wide receivers. Even though that New England hasn't had a great defensive year, they do have cornerbacks. They do have guys that can cover. Even though they weren't the best that they've played, Malcolm Butler hasn't played his best. So as they turn them around, there's not anybody that they're afraid of in terms of coverage. And Marcus Mariota, he needs to have everything go right for him to even have success. And in this game against New England, in that environment and in that cold, I don't think that he's going to fare very well. And he's very bad against pressure. If you put pressure on Marcus Mariota, he only averages 2.6 yards per pass attempt. That's extremely low. That's like running backs carries yards per carry. The issue, though, is that New England doesn't pressure the quarterback. They only blitz 6 guys on 2% of all their plays. So they are they are the lowest team in terms of actual blitz packages that are out there. So I don't think they're going to do a lot of blitzing. I think that they're going to try to keep them in front of them. I think they're going to try to stop the run. And I think what's going to end up happening here is Belichick's going to devise a plan where Henry doesn't beat them. He might stay on the field, chew up some yards in the middle of the field, and then have Mariota be the guy that tries to beat him. And if Mariota is the guy that tries to beat him, I don't think that's going to be a successful opportunity for Tennessee. Tennessee. Tennessee needs to be able to run the ball. They rank in the tops of all scoring in terms of winning in the red zone. They can run the ball. They're the number one rushing team in in that area when they get to the red zone. And I think that comes too because Marcus Mariota is also a read option kind of quarterback. But that's a good strength for New England. They stop running quarterbacks, so that's not a problem for them. Here's the big issue in this game. So when you flip this over and you look at when New England has the ball, they're the number one pass offense in the league. And it's not a dink and dunk offense. They rank third in the amount of deep passes thrown. They threw 130 attempts. So they're going to move the ball. They're going to throw the ball down the field. Yeah, they throw the ball to wide receivers. Yeah, they throw the ball to slot guys on little slant passes. They swing the ball out, but they throw 130 deep pass attempts. The offensive edge there is very big because the Tennessee Titans aren't a strong secondary. They're a good run defense, but they're not necessarily a great pass defense. When you think about what also has to happen here, it's almost like Tennessee has to reinvent itself. They were the lowest ranked team at allowing receptions to tight ends. So of all 32 teams, they allowed the most receptions to a tight end. And who's the tight end for the New England Patriots? None other than Rob Gronkowski. And if you can remember last week when they played Kansas City, they were behind 21-3 when Travis Kelce was out on the field playing for Kansas City. Unfortunately for them, he got concussed and they had to take him out. And then Kansas City just, I guess, they couldn't hold on to the ball. They couldn't run out the clock. They couldn't eat up the time and preserve their win. So they ended up losing the game because Marcus Mariota got hot. He ended up 15 of 16. They couldn't stop him on offense. So Kansas City lost the game. I don't think you're going to see that with a Bill Belichick run New England Patriot team. If they get ahead 21-3, it might be 42-6 by the end of the game. So as you go through this, there's a huge, huge edge to New England, and the matchup on offense is so critical that Tennessee needs to hold the ball. If they can't hold the ball, they're going to get blown out. So as we look through this, the big difference too that is in this game is New England's not just a one-way path of success. They also have the number 3 ranked rushing attack. So they can run the ball, and Tennessee's only chance on defense is to stop the run. If they can stop the run, that makes them one-dimensional, which is what happened in the Kansas City game. They ganged up on Hunt. Kareem Hunt wasn't able to have any sustainable yards, didn't have that many opportunities, so they made them a pass-oriented team. In this case, Tom Brady, being a passer himself, being one of the best quarterbacks ever of all time, they're not going to really fret being a one-way type offense. But if you're Tennessee, you have to stop something, and the only way that they can do anything is they can't allow New England to do both. They can't run the ball and pass the ball, or they're going to be, again, in big trouble. Tennessee, however, is dead last at covering the running backs out of the backfield. So, again, now you can't cover the tight end. Now you can't cover the running backs. You've got wide receiver problems in terms of being able to hold up in the secondary. So their only avenue for success against the pass is if they can get pressure out of their front against Tom Brady. And it's just such a mismatch on this side of the ball that it's crazy to think that 13.5 points isn't enough. But then step it aside one more spot. You have Mularkey as a head coach who was maligned for what he's done in terms of the offense and who he chose to run the ball for them and what they look like with Murray and not putting Henry in the game and not on the field. His decisions about trying to go for 2 points all the time, or not all the time, but in that last game when he didn't need to be doing those types of things, his decision making, the way that he tries to play safe, the way he tries to do different things against Bill Belichick. I mean, come on, it's a total mismatch when it comes to the head coaches. And it's also a mismatch when it comes to the kickers. The kicking game is totally going to be decided with New England as well. So this whole thing on offense for New England, when they get the ball, they're going to score. So how many times do they score versus how many times does Tennessee hold on and keep the clock and drive? If they can get 5-6 minute drives, whether they score or not, that's going to be a theoretically success for them, because that's 5 or 6 minutes that New England doesn't have the ball. All right, so let's go look at this in terms of the spread and how we're going to play this game. I was looking at some teaser options and different things, but when you have a 6-point teaser, it just doesn't make the numbers look good. New England's minus 13.5. Even if they were 14, you take the 6 points, that gives them 7.5 or 8. Those are still bad numbers. So you don't play the teaser on bad numbers, because you need two things to happen with a teaser. In this case, we're going to go one way and one way only in this game. I would think that this might be an over opportunity as well, but the over's already been bet up 1 point from 47 to 48. So I do have a lean to the over, but I'm not going to bet it myself. I am betting on the New England Patriots minus 13.5. I think that if you look at what happened with New England, the game prior with Kansas City was ahead 18 points at halftime, and Travis Kelce was just lighting them up, opening up their entire offense. And I think Gronkowski's going to do the same thing, if not even better. And I think they're going to be able to toss the ball to the running backs. And I think on offense they're going to be able to do whatever they really want to against Tennessee. So I'm not really worried about that 13.5 number, even though it sounds kind of funny. Just remember that this is the New England Patriots. The New England Patriots are the team that have proven that there is no reason to worry about covering big spreads. In fact, in the last 10 games that New England has played, they're 9-1 against the spread. So this is a team that's playing at one of the best levels that they can possibly play at right now. Their defense has improved, and I do believe that that kind of runs in my mind back in the day when Tim Tebow played in that miracle pass that he made against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that those guys won that game. And what ended up happening there was the very next week when they had to play the next game, they got totally blown away. I mean, they're just a blowout city. So I sort of think of this game as sort of that same way. Tennessee won a game that maybe they shouldn't have won, and then all of a sudden now they're going to be asked to beat the New England Patriots at home. It's a total mismatch on one side of the ball. New England can stack up. They can defend. They can keep the points to a minimal number. And if it was 21-3 against Kansas City, I'm kind of imagining a similar 21, 22, 28 to something at halftime in this game. But I don't think they're going to be in a position where they give it up at the end. So this game is all about New England. It's all about the 13.5, and don't worry about that number. Bet it and enjoy the evening. All right, guys, have a great day. We will talk again for the Sunday games. Let's make these games happen.